Oh, I feel this. I think it's going to get fun. John chapter 8, let's get started. We're going to look at verses 31 through 36, okay? Then said Jesus to the Jews that believed on him, if you continue in my word, then are you my disciples indeed, and you'll know the truth, and the truth will make you free. They answered him, we be Abraham's seed. We were never in bondage to any man. How sayest thou, you shall be made free? Jesus answered them, verily, verily, I say unto you, whoever commits sin is the servant of sin. And the servant abides not in the house forever, but the Son abides forever. If the Son therefore shall make you free, you shall be free indeed. Oh, I love this. To me, this is going to be foundational this week, next couple of weeks. I preached this really strong last week, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time elaborating on this. But I'm going to tell you something I thought was really cool. I did it this week. I didn't last week, but this week I actually pulled out. I have a personalized Bible. Does anybody have a personalized Bible or even know what I'm talking about? Like they're awesome. I bought one. We bought them for all of our staff members. It has my name in it about 5,600 times. I mean, it's printed that way. And in the personalized Bible, I should have brought it with me. I could have, I guess. It's on my desk right now. But it actually says, if you continue in my word, you're my... It says, if Don continues in my word, then he is my disciple indeed. And Don will know the truth, and the truth will make Don free. That's the way it reads in my Bible. But you know what? I say that because what you need to do is look at that and realize this thing is personal. It's called a personalized Bible. Why? Because this message is personal. They say, oh, it's not all about you. I'd beg to differ. It is all about me. This whole gospel is all about me. It's all about you. Do you understand? It's a personalized thing. It's personal. It is for you. And if we can understand what he was saying, he's speaking directly to you as an individual. There's a place where we have to take this truth and say, how do I apply this into my life? Because it's personal, man. Why? Because when the Son sets you free, then you are free indeed. Do you understand? And I talked about those two words about what free meant there, because last week I talked about when the Son sets you free, which means to set at liberty. The Greek word there means to set at liberty. Then you're free indeed. And that second word, free, meant as a freeborn son. Okay? Come on. Like you were freeborn. Like you were never, ever. You understand that even the song Pam was singing earlier, when it talked about my history's been rewritten. Come on. When I got set free, my history was rewritten. It was like as if I never even had a past. That's pretty amazing. When the Son sets you free, you're free indeed. That's a big deal, and we got to catch that. And that's got to become really, 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 really important to us. So I want to talk to you about what it looks like to be walking in freedom, because this is what we kind of prefaced. We built the foundation last week. It was pretty awesome. But I want to take you somewhere. So go with me to Philippians chapter 1, okay? And we're going to talk about what it looks like to begin to walk in incredible freedom more and more, okay? Come on. Because there's one thing about being set free, there's another thing about walking in freedom. Boy, that was more powerful than you realize. It's one thing to be set free. It's another thing to actually walk out now that freedom that you've been set free to walk in. And it's walking that out that matters. Philippians chapter 1, verses 9 and 10, and then I'm just going to preach like crazy. And this I pray, that your love may abound yet more and more in knowledge and in all judgment. What's that mean? That your love grows. Come on. And then what's he say from there? That you might approve things that are excellent, and that you might be sincere and without offense till the day of Christ. Now, to me, this is a big deal right now, okay? To be sincere and without offense. I've talked about this on several occasions, but I need to kind of elaborate if I can. It's probably been close to 12 years ago now. We were in a Sunday night service on the other side. It was back when we had the old building over on this side. We weren't down the plaza. We were over here. And I invited a guy in from York. His name was Dan Moeller. And I knew Dan some. It was before he was on staff with me. But I invited him to come in, and he preached. And it's a Sunday night, and we had a pretty nice crowd. We probably had almost 200 people, and that was a big crowd back then. And when everybody gathered in, Dan preached. And right in the middle of the message, he used this verse. And he talked about being sincere and without offense. And he said, I'm looking at this congregation, he says, and I can tell you, there's none of you in this building, none of you in this auditorium, none of you within the sound of my voice have the power to offend me. You can't offend me. And I thought, yeah, Jack, you ain't pastoring them. Like, I could name 4 or 5 right now. They could do it, I promise you. Because my mind started to go there. Anybody follow what I'm saying? You ever hear something and you start thinking from another perspective? And I started thinking about that. And as I was watching this play out, and he kept preaching about I won't give you that kind of power in my life to offend me. I won't allow that. I won't allow you to have that place that you could actually offend me. I'm going to keep walking this thing out. And the more he preached, the more I started thinking of all the different ones and some of the things they've done, and all of a sudden, and I sat there listening to him preach. I thought, man, I can't even believe you're preaching that. And the Lord thumped my heart and said, you're offended that he's preaching on being unoffendable. And you talk about a spanking from heaven, right? So I started reading up on this stuff, and I started thinking, what does it look like to live unoffendable? Why? Because I think we can. I think we actually have the ability to live unoffendable. So I want to talk to you today. And this is what I want to talk to you about. I want to talk to you about living unoffendable. Because we live in a rough place when we carry offense. And sometimes in our life, we spend a long time carrying offense, and we don't even realize we're carrying offense. But some of you have been carrying offense way too long. Do you know what happens when you're carrying offense? After a while, when you're carrying offense, you know what will happen? Your body starts to ache. You'll be fatigued, and you don't even know why you're fatigued. Do you know why you're fatigued? You've been carrying offense too long. Things on you start to ache, and you start to feel pain in places, and you don't even know why you're feeling that pain. It's because you're carrying offense. Next thing you know, you're fatigued, your body's wearing out. You're struggling and you're challenged in all kinds of ways. And if you're carrying offense long enough, man, I'm going to tell you, you'll start to get a little irritable and a little grouchy. Why? Because when you're tired and sore, you can get irritable and grouchy. Do you know what happens when you're carrying offense? Brian, come here a minute. You're right on the end. Come here, up here. I want you to know what happens when you're carrying offense. And you... Come here, man. Just give me a big hug. Do you know what happens? When you're carrying offense, people you love can't really get close to you. Why? Because you got a wall up. Why? Because I got hurt before, and even though I want to love you, and even though I want to embrace you, I got a wall up. Because when you're carrying offense, people can't get close to you. Make sense? I promise you that. I promise you, man. Jared, come up here with Dad a minute. Okay? I'm going to really embarrass this guy. It's fun when you get the kids up here. It's just all right, you know. I need you on this side. Over, no, one of you. It doesn't. Yeah. So here's the deal. Because, and this is the situation, right? Because when this guy's trying to embrace me and trying to love me, right? And all of a sudden, he can't get close to me. And then I see somebody else. You know what will happen? Oh, sorry. No, sorry. Do you know what happens when you're carrying offense? The people that are close to you get hit. And you hurt them. You don't hurt the stranger out there. You'll hurt the people that are close to you when you're carrying offense. Every time that you're carrying offense, man, people around you are in jeopardy. People around you are in danger. And you're wearing yourself out. Do you know how much of the body of Christ is carrying offense? And there's got to be a place, man, where we get rid of this stuff. Because here's the deal, and Brian said something actually when he was just playing, but watch, when I went to turn to look at Jared and I hit him, he said, oh, now I'm offended. Because offended people can offend people. Did I say that out loud? Okay. Do you understand what I'm saying? There's such a visual in this right here. And the truth of the matter is, I can look at Brian, but if I'm looking at him through offense, everything's blurry. When you're trying to look at something through offense, you don't see it properly. You don't see it the way it should be. Things are strange, and they get, the distortion is amazing. I can stand here, and as I'm walking across, just looking at the congregation right now, it's distorted because there's a myriad of stuff going on out here. Why? Because I'm looking through a fence. This is good preaching. I just want you guys to see this, because the visual is so strong. And there's a place where you and I have to understand that we got to get to a place where we're not carrying offense. Can I say it? I'm going to say it. There's a lot of people preaching that are carrying offense. Just because you're preaching doesn't mean you're not carrying offense. Just because you're ministering to others doesn't mean you're not carrying offense. Carrying offense won't keep you from preaching. I can preach all day carrying this thing. I'd just be sore at the end of it. Boy, there's a sermon. Y'all follow me, right? It's a weird day when you're carrying offense. And there has to be a place where we start to examine our own heart and ask ourselves, man, why are we carrying offense? I'm going to talk to you about it. Thanks, guys. We're good. I would ask you to think with me for a minute about your life. And the question of the hour is, do you find yourself carrying offense in any area? See, if I knock this over and it hits that piano and it falls, Pam will have offense. Okay? Go with me to Psalm 119. Psalm 119, 165, I love this. It says, great peace have they that love thy law. Did you catch that? Great peace have they that love thy law. But you know what the end of it says? And nothing shall offend them. That's a beautiful verse. Great peace have they that love thy law, and nothing shall offend them. That's the way it's written in the King James. Let me challenge you with this for a minute. If I've embraced Jesus, is there a place where I can live unoffendable? Where you don't have the power to offend me? Where I got to talk to you. I'm going way out in the rabbit trail, but I feel Jesus in it, so it's okay. There are times in our life we pray prayers like this, and I love it. Some of the songs we even sing, you know what I mean? God, I just want you to perfect love in me. God, I want you to make me more like Jesus. Lord, your love, and make me more like you, and let love just reign in my heart. And then you know what happens? He answers that prayer. But you know how he perfects love in you? By putting you around grouchy people. And then we get offended at them. Listen, nobody ever had love perfected in them by being around a bunch of lovely folks. Right? Come on. It's easy to love lovely people. The challenge is the grouchy people. The challenge are the folks that you have to work with, and the folks that you maybe it's your boss, maybe it's a neighbor, maybe you're married now. But anyway, but there could be challenges in your life, and it's loving those people around you that are challenging that really makes the difference. And that's the thing that he's doing, and he's working that in us. And the challenge is that I don't allow that to offend me. I allow that to perfect love in me. Does everybody follow where I'm at? Because that's a big deal. What does it look like? Great peace have they that love thy law. Nothing shall offend us. Wow. How do we get offended so easily? Can I talk to you? When we pick up offense, we ignore people. Did I say that out loud? Come on. When we pick up offense, all of a sudden we're keeping people at a distance. We're ignoring people. Can I say it? When we pick up offense, we'll leave churches. Oh. When we pick up offense, we become bitter. Why? All because we fail to forgive and we become bitter inside. That's what offense looks like. Can I say, and I think it's a strong phrase, but I actually believe with all my heart, man, our ability to be offended is relationally connected to our inability to forgive. You understand what I just said? Our ability to be offended is relationally connected to our inability to forgive. Because if I had the ability to forgive, I wouldn't be offended. That is good. That's really, write that down. So that's a big deal, okay? Because that's strong. Being offended is a choice, right? It's a choice, right? There's a stimulus. Watch, a harsh word is spoken. And then there has to be a response to the stimulus. What's the response? Well, I can choose to be offended, or I can choose to let it go. You understand what I just said? Come on. Being offended is a choice. There's a stimulus, a harsh word, right? And then a response to that stimulus. That stimulus might say, oh, there's something ugly said about me. And it's like, wow. Because watch, can I say, and I'm going to tell you some things I've learned just in life. This is big stuff. But here's the reality. When somebody says something harsh about my life or about me or about my family or whatever, I could look at that and say, well, now I got a problem. But you know what? I have to look at that and realize I don't have a problem. They have a problem. And I can either choose to be mad at them or I can choose to feel sorry for them. Can I tell you something about angry people? They're hurting. There's a pain in their life somewhere. And that's what makes them angry. Angry people, you know why people are angry? Can I share this with you? You know why people get angry? Because they're afraid of losing control. And they get angry because their anger controls the environment. How do you know that? Watch somebody that you know is angry. When they walk in the room, everybody responds to them. Why? Because we don't want to tick them off. Am I right? Come on, don't say something. Harry will get mad, and when he explodes, everything gets ugly. So everyone's walking on eggshells around Harry because why? Because angry people have a need to control the environment around them. That's good preaching right there. Stay with me, because there's something about this. When there's a stimulus, right? Harsh words spoken, whatever, you have two choices. You can either be offended at that hard choice, at those harsh words, or you can let it go. I think Disney was right. Let it go. Never mind. Okay. There's something about you and I understanding. Oh. There's a whole lot of freedom in choosing to not be offended. I'm talking about being free indeed. There's a whole lot of freedom in choosing to not be offended. I got to take you somewhere. Go with me to 2 Timothy chapter 4. Little Bible lesson real quick. If you're looking for 2 Timothy, there's 5 books in the Bible that all start with the letter T in a row, and they're in alphabetical order. Little Bible lesson, right? 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, 1st and 2nd Timothy, and then Titus. Alphabetically, if you follow that, right? Just a little help, okay? 2 Timothy 4 and 2. Everybody there? Come on, watch what he says. Preach the word. Be instant in season, out of season. Now watch. Reprove, rebuke, exhort with all long suffering and doctrine. Catch that. Reprove, rebuke, exhort. Everybody catch that? He didn't say exhort, exhort, exhort. See, exhort means to lift up and encourage, right? We've created a culture that wants exhort, 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 but they don't want any reprove or rebuke. Oh, it's better preaching than I thought. Come on, I'm going to talk about it because we have to. We have to address this stuff or we're in trouble if we don't. And here's the reality of that, man. When he says this, reprove, rebuke, exhort, we've got a culture that wants exhort. They want to be encouraged, but they don't want reproved or rebuke. The end result is of people that are easily offended who can't grow beyond their ability to be corrected. How do you know that, Pastor? Because I correct people and then they get a word from the Lord that it's time for them to go to another church. You can't believe how many times God gets blamed for that right after you correct somebody. It's true. Come on. Oh. There's actually 3 places in Proverbs that says a fool despises correction, but a wise man accepts reproof. Whew. That's huge, man. Reprove, rebuke, exhort with all long suffering. Listen, that's huge to me. Did you catch that? Do you understand that you don't have to exhort with long suffering? Exhort is to encourage. You don't have to encourage anyone with long suffering. Unless you're the one that's suffering while you continue to encourage them. Come on, I know you can do this, you lughead. Okay. Oh, I shouldn't say stuff out loud. Anyway, but in this place, follow with me because it's important that we catch this. There's something about you and I understanding what he's saying here. There's a place where we have to receive correction. We have to receive reproof. We have to receive the rebuke. What? And realize that it's for our good to make us better and not get offended at the person who's correcting us, but realizing that they're doing it because they love us. If they didn't love us, they wouldn't correct us. As a pastor, if I see you getting off track and I have to correct you, it's because I love you and I would care about you. If all I do is pat you on the back, I'll pat you on the back straight to hell. I can't live like that. Does it make sense? And that's not just me, that's the whole staff, that's anybody. But the truth of the matter is people around you that love you will speak into your life words of correction. And we're becoming a society that doesn't take correction well. And that has to change. It ought to start in the church. It's important, man, we get this. We okay? Cool. Here's the word, love takes no offense of a suffered wrong. 1 Corinthians 13, it's from the Amplified Bible, it says it that way. But let's talk about that. When somebody does you wrong, do you keep a record of it? Oh, I remember when they hurt me back in 1978. Bless God. Come on. We can talk about it. I talked about this on Tuesday night. I was teaching in the school, but I had a guy that did me wrong, right? And it was a spiritual authority in my life, and he said some things very openly. And what happened was it made me frustrated enough. I grabbed my wife, and we walked out of the meeting, okay? And in that place, watch, I left, and I had to deal with that, and there was a bunch of stuff that was moving in me, and this was quite a few years ago. I wasn't as mature a Christian as I am now back then, but I told myself, and watch what I told myself. I said, I got to forgive him. Why? Because I'm a Christian, so I forgive him. In Jesus' name. But you understand that just because you say, I forgive you, doesn't mean I forgive you. Everybody, you following me? Right? So here's the deal. For the next 2 years, every time I heard his name, right, inside, I'm going, ew. Anybody understand what I just said? Come on, you probably, not that you would identify with this, but you probably know somebody. Never mind. And out of that place, and you'd hear the name. You'd hear his voice, whatever. And as soon as they, ew, 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 ew. Ew. and that's why, and over, and you'd hear this guy, and it bothered me to that place, you know. But I knew I was okay, because why? Because I said I forgave him. But if I forgave him, why did I? So I go to a meeting. We had the largest meeting of our year was called the General Assembly. And I go to the meeting of the General Assembly. And when I get to that meeting, right, you have to understand, this is the big meeting it's people from all over the world come. They got an auditorium. It's a round auditorium, 16,250 seats in the auditorium. Y'all follow? Huge, right? Big deal, right? 36 doors in a round building. The platform's in the middle. Jumbotrons around, so if you're in the back, you can still see everything. Follow that? Okay? In the midst of all that, while I'm in the building, I'm telling you, it didn't matter. 36 doors in a round building. I'd come out door number 12. Guess who's standing there? Standing right there. I'm like, bro. I'd be walking down the hall. I see him coming toward me, and I found myself slipping in a side door so we didn't have to cross paths in the hallway. But watch, I forgave him because I'm a Christian. Who hears me? Y'all following that? I promise you, for the whole week we were there, I'd walk out the door. As soon as I walk out the door, he's standing right there. I'm like, fine. What the world? I'm dealing with this, right? I'm dealing with this over and over. And finally, it's Thursday night. There's the thing called the Parade of Nations. It's like a really, really huge event. And Pastor Lori at that time, she was part of the Parade of Nations. She was going to represent the country of Mozambique in the parade, carry their flag, whatever. So I thought, well, that's cool, man. It was just me and her together. I'm just going to go somewhere and find a seat. But it's one of the largest attended meetings in that meeting, right? 16,250 seats. I go in a door and I look, and there's one seat. It's the second seat in, down near about 5 rows from the front. I walk down the steps. Now you have to understand, all the lights are dark. It's all dark. Why? Because they're just ready to start the Parade of Nations. It's a big deal. And the lights are only going to be in the center. And so I'm walking down, and I go to step in and sit down. Guess who's there? Right beside me. I'm like, fine. Do you ever have those conversations with God? Fine, then I'll just deal with it. So I asked him to come out into the hallway. Why? Because I knew he wasn't a prisoner. I was. I don't know if anybody else understood what I just said. But it was time to set the prisoner free. Because for 2 years, even though I said I forgave you, I was carrying offense. Does that make sense? Okay, that's a big deal, right? I'm here at church. We were actually in the other building then, and a lady showed up. I had pastored 17 years before. I had left the church I was pastoring there, right, to go we were in Waynesburg, and we were moving to Adams Station. Right? I'd been through a bad accident. I don't want to get into that whole history, but a drunk driver hit me head on then as well too. And at that point, we made a move, and we moved from Waynesburg to Adams Station. But there's a beautiful lady from Waynesburg who I thought we were friends. I would anybody ask? I said, "Oh yeah, we're friends." Well, she came here and actually asked me to forgive her. With tears running down her face. She said, "Can you forgive me, Brother Don?" That's what she called me. And I said, "Honey, what for? Oh my goodness. Sure, anything. What's going on?" And she said, "When you left, I was so angry at you for leaving us because we needed you. And I was angry at you for 17 years. I've harbored this resentment and anger towards you because you left. Could you ever forgive me?" And I looked at her and said, "Honey, that'll be easy. I never even knew you were mad." I don't know if you got that. But some of the very people that we've carried offense with didn't even know we were offended. It never hurt them. Do you understand that carrying unforgiveness is like you drinking cyanide hoping they'll get hurt? I don't even know if that makes sense. Y'all follow what I just said? You're carrying around the poison inside of you, and they don't even, come on, I promise you, I didn't even know. I embraced her. I said, "Oh my gosh, honey." And she began to share with me her story, and I began to share with her my story, and we were absolutely fine. You know what we needed? A conversation 17 years before would have solved all that problem. Sometimes we carry offense, and we don't even realize we're carrying offense. Sometimes people are offended at us, and we have no idea that they're offended. And all it takes is one conversation. Let me talk to you, church. We can walk unoffendable. We just have to learn how to communicate. Whew, that's a big deal right there. I want to talk to you, man, because there's so many things that are stirring in my spirit right now. It's a big deal. Oh. Can I give you this word? Most people don't stumble over boulders. They stumble over stones. It's not the big things. It's the small things. Oh, man, there's a verse in Song of Solomon. I'm going to say 3:15. It's probably right. It might be 2:15, but I think it's 3:15. It says, "Take us the foxes, the little foxes that spoil the vines, for our vines have tender grapes." It's not the big foxes. It's the little foxes. It's the small things that we harbor offense over, that we stumble over, that become the stumbling stone. It's not a boulder. Do you understand what I'm saying? We seem to get past big things. It's small things that we struggle with. And we've got to get beyond that. Why? Because he calls us to be, what did I read in Philippians chapter 1? Sincere and without offense. We can't carry offense. Everything gets tore up in us when we carry offense. I hope I'm all right. I think you guys are following with me pretty well. Matthew 6, right? Verses 9 through 12. "After this manner, therefore, pray ye." Is this amazing or what? The disciples come to Jesus and they said, "Lord, teach us to pray." I love the fact that they said, "Teach us to pray." They didn't say, "Teach us to walk on the water." They didn't say, "Teach us to raise the dead." They didn't say, "Teach us how to make blind eyes open." They didn't say, "Teach us to make the lame walk and the deaf hear." They said, "Teach us how to pray." Why? Because when we get that part right, all the other stuff will fall in line. So he said, "After this manner, therefore, pray ye, Our Father which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Your kingdom come, your will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread." Watch. "And forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors." How many understand the word "as" there means in the same manner? What did he say? He said, "Forgive us the same way we forgive them." And yet there's an epidemic of unforgiveness in the body of Christ. Imagine if he takes us up on that prayer. Are we in trouble or not? Oh, I hope I said that out loud. are we in trouble if he takes us up on that prayer? If I could actually pray, listen to me. If I'm going to harbor offense and unforgiveness against somebody else, but I pray, Lord, forgive me the same way I hope I'm making sense right now. We're kind of quiet, but that means we're thinking, right? Oh, come on. Because there's something about you and I understanding this thing. This is steps to freedom right here, man. I'm talking about real freedom. Because I'll say this. You can't dance freely carrying a burden of unforgiveness. Oh. All right, let's go for it, because I'm going to preach now. Oh. Freedom's found in a release. Offense came because you felt like somebody did you wrong, and you got a right to be hurt and angry. Offense came because somebody did you wrong and you felt like you have a right to be hurt and angry. Can I tell you something? When you came to Jesus, you gave up all your rights. Here's the reality of that, man. When I came to Jesus, listen to what Paul said. I am crucified with Christ. Yet I live, but not I. But Christ lives in me. Can I tell you something about Jesus? He's not offended. Actually, I'm buried with him in baptism. What's that mean? That means I'm a dead man. Do you understand a dead man gave up all his rights? The only right you have is the right to remain silent. I don't know if you have the ability, but you have the right. Oh, do you understand where I'm at? Come on. Come on. There's a place where if I'm dead, then I can't be carrying offense. I can't. And I realize this offense comes because we feel like somebody did us wrong. They hurt us. They did us wrong. And we have the right to be angry or hurt. And I'm challenging you to give up that right. To release that and say, you know what? I'm not holding that against them. We all have the opportunity to be offended several times a day. Who's married? Never mind. Okay. Come on, we have these opportunities. I was in a meeting. We were talking about an event that just took place on the weekend, and here's what she said. She said, I noticed that several times through the weekend, many of us had the opportunity to be offended and refused to take it. Let's celebrate that. I thought that was a great phrase. Come on, let's celebrate the fact that we had an opportunity to be offended and we refused to take it. Because that's a big deal to me. When I talk about being free, this is one of the big steps to freedom, is choosing not to be offended. What if we could actually live unoffendable? What if I said I refuse to give you that kind of power in my life? Do you realize that when I'm offended, I'm carrying something that doesn't belong to me? When I'm offended, I'm carrying something that I wasn't created to carry. We're not created to carry offense. Remember, I was carrying the offense. Come on, man. You saw all the visible signs of what goes on with that. We have to choose conscientiously, very seriously. I refuse to be offended. I think it's a big deal. Give up the right to be offended. Lay it down. Forgive. Let it go. That's a big deal to me, man. That's a really big deal. Offense is the moment you turn from selfless to selfish. Do you understand what I just said? Offense is the moment you turn from selfless to selfish. I'm going to harbor this. When I'm offended, I'm holding something against you. And I don't have that right. It's serious, isn't it? It's really quiet in here. This is one of the quieter Sundays. I like it, though. Here's why I like it, because I know I'm right. It's a big deal. And we have to choose not to carry offense. We have to choose. It's a choice. It's a challenge, but it's a good one. And it's going to take us somewhere. I believe this. Offense is the moment you turn from selfless to selfish. And what you're saying is, you know what? I'm no longer dead to me. I'm mad at you. I can't be dead to me and mad at you. Listen, if there's a corpse laying on the ground and I kick it, it won't even get mad. Do you understand? I can smack on it and kick it and slap it around, and it won't even get up and smack me back. Why? It's dead. Boy, there's a strong word. I look at that corpse and say, you're the ugliest corpse I ever saw. And it wouldn't get mad at me. Am I right? Come on. You have to realize that when people do you wrong, when people hurt you, when people have done things that are contrary to your well-being or your welfare, it's not because you have a problem, it's because they have a problem. Don't make their problem your problem by now harboring an offense. Come on, man. That's a big deal right there. Follow this. Follow it. Go to Acts chapter 5. Let me preach. Oh, you thought I was done and I still had more. Verse 40. Okay? This is cool, right? Because in Acts chapter 5, something major is going on here, okay? Can I tell you what's really cool? Acts chapter, let's just cover the whole thing real quick because I got a couple minutes. Watch this. Acts chapter 1, Jesus gives them a word, says you're going to be endued with power, right? But you'll receive power after the Holy Spirit's come upon you. You'll be witnesses unto me in Jerusalem, Judea, Samaria, and unto the uttermost parts of the earth. Everybody follow that? Right? What's he saying? You're going to need this power. You're going to need this. So go and tarry to be endued with power from on high. He told them that. Acts chapter 2, they're tarrying. What happens when the day of Pentecost was fully come? They're gathered in one place in one accord, right? And the sound of a rushing mighty wind came, filled all the house wherein they were sitting. They were all filled with the Holy Spirit, and they began to speak with other tongues as the Spirit gave them utterance. I'm not going to do the whole chapter, I promise. Okay, so, but watch. Now, the baptism of the Holy Spirit happens, and what happens? They come out on the street, and Peter gets on the soapbox. Thousands of people are being converted. They're baptizing them in the lake or the river. It's amazing, amazing time. And then what happens? Acts chapter 3. It's the ninth. It's the third hour of the day. It's 9 o'clock in the morning. Peter and John are going up for the morning oblation is what they're actually doing. And as they do, they come in through the main gate of the temple. It's called the gate of the temple, called the gate beautiful. It's the beautiful gate, right? When they come into the beautiful gate, there's a man who's been laying there for over 40 years. And he asks an alms. Who knows the story? Peter, silver and gold I don't have, but I'll tell you what I do have. Why? Because I can't give you what I don't have, but I can give you what I do have. You got to ask yourself, what am I carrying that the world around me needs? Silver and gold have I none, such as I have give I thee. Rise up and walk in the name of Jesus of Nazareth. Right? He jumps up, leaps and dances, and it turns the whole city upside down. By the time Acts chapter 4 comes, they're mad at him and they arrest him, throw him in jail. In Acts chapter 5, they're going to beat him, right? Now, verse 40 of Acts chapter 5. And to him they agreed when they had called the apostles and beaten them, they commanded that they wouldn't speak in the name of Jesus, and they let them go. Everybody see it? What were they doing? Preaching Jesus. What was the result? Got beaten. Well, bless God, I ain't preaching to them anymore. They didn't even shout and say amen. I couldn't even get an offering out of the Sanhedrin. Come on. You following me? They could have got all kind of attitude right here. They could have, watch, this is a great opportunity to be offended. Y'all see that, right? Look at the next verse. Watch what it says. And they departed from the presence of the council, rejoicing that they were counted worthy to suffer shame for his name. Oh, maybe you didn't hear that. They got beaten. Come on. There's humiliation. There's all kind of stuff that goes on with this. And in the midst of it, they don't get offended. They counted it. Come on. They rejoice. I don't know. I've never gotten beaten and rejoiced over it, but I'm thinking it could be cool. We get upset if somebody says something bad about us on Facebook. Did I say that out loud? Not you people, just other folks that we know. Oh, do you understand what I'm saying? They rejoiced and they were counted worthy to suffer shame. Man, they chose not to be offended. They chose to rejoice. Think about the things in our life that we've allowed offend us. Think of the things that people have said or done that we've allowed to become an offense to our life. And let me ask you, can I say some things? I'm going to say a couple of things I think are really, really important right now. Most of the things they did, I will tell you that most of the hurts that have come in your life have come from people who are already hurting. And we all know the phrase, hurting people hurt people. And we have to choose to love. You can choose to be offended or you can choose to love. There's a stimulus followed by a response. Come on. The greatest example we have looked like this on a cross 2,000 years ago. Father, forgive them. What's he say? Come on, what's he say? They know not what they do. Oh, if we could get that. They know not what they do. If they knew what they were doing, they wouldn't have done it. Oh, teach us, Lord, from that great example. Teach us what it looks like, Lord. Because to me, it's imperative that we get this thing. So rather than be offended and outraged at the treatment they received, they rejoiced that they were counted worthy to suffer shame for the gospel's sake. That's a big deal. Let me give you one more thing and we're going to pray. When I think about people in the Bible that got offended, right? Here's the great one. Israel's ruled by judges because that was the will and the plan of God. But there came a point where all the other nations had kings, and what did Israel say? Give us a king so we can be like everybody else. Boy, that's the first sign of stupid. When you need something because everybody else has it, there's probably something messed up with your thinking. Give us a king so we can be like everybody else, right? And what God say? If you want a king, fine. So how'd they pick a king? Let's take Saul. Why? Because he's bigger than everybody else. The Bible said he was head and shoulders above the rest. And I don't think it was a shampoo commercial. That would be Absalom. Never mind. Okay. All my Bible students just got that, by the way. In the midst of that, Saul becomes king. And we know Saul's doing a pretty fair job of being king. And then a young boy comes on the scene, slays a giant. We're all familiar, right? But if you notice what happens, after David kills Goliath, and he comes into the ranks of Saul's house, the young maiden starts singing, Saul has killed his thousands, but David his tens of thousands. Do you know what happened right there? Offense. Come on. Offense came. Do you understand? Offense came in right there. That's where offense came. But you have to understand something. The offense didn't just mess up Saul. I want you to know what did happen. It's really, really important that we catch this. Who was David's best friend? Jonathan, Saul's son. And you know what happens? Now, Jonathan's relationship with David gets totally challenged and messed up. Why? Because a father's offense touches the generations behind him. Your offense doesn't just challenge you, it challenges everyone involved in your circle of influence. And you need to understand the offense that you're carrying has the ability to mess up generations behind you. I challenge you, man, it's time to let it go. If you're carrying offense anywhere in your life, please hear this, man. If you have one visual from today, keep this in your mind. If you're carrying offense, you're causing your own body fatigue and stress. The greatest killer we have on the planet right now is stress. A lot of stress is caused through unforgiveness. Unforgiveness is only the byproduct of offense. Do you understand what I just said? Come on. Unforgiveness, the only reason you have unforgiveness is because somebody offended you. Unforgiveness is the byproduct of offense, carrying offense. You're stressing your body, you're straining, you're fatiguing, you're causing undue, unnecessary pain. People around you can't get close. Come on. They want to embrace you, but how can they? You've got a wall. You're carrying offense. They can't hug you. They can't embrace you. When they try to get close to you, they get smacked. You can't see properly when you're looking through offense. Please hear me. There's a place where you purpose in your heart, man, I'm going to let this thing go. I'm not going to carry this any longer. You've been through the pain of divorce. You've been through the pain of challenges, whatever they might look like. You've been through hurts and pains. You've been through church hurts. People hurt you. Perfect people are hard to find. There's so few of us. We got to get past this stuff. You have to purpose in your heart, man. I love this verse. It's from Galatians chapter 6, verse 9. Here's what it says. Be not deceived, God isn't mocked. Whatsoever a man sows, that shall he also reap. That's why he told us, forgive us our debts, as we forgive our debtors. Because as we sow forgiveness, we'll reap forgiveness. As we sow mercy, we're going to reap mercy. Y'all follow where I'm at? This is very powerful today, but I want us to really think with me. And go ahead and stand. We're going to do this. We're going to pray right now. I'm doing better at getting us out by 11. They told me it makes the parking lot so much nicer. But I want to challenge you, man. I want to challenge you to think with me really, really seriously. Please hear this. What I've shared today, I feel is one of the most liberating messages I can preach to you. When we're talking about freedom, man, this is a place where we've got to learn. What does it look like to forgive? What does it look like to actually live in a place of being unoffendable? What does it look like to say, I'm not going to carry offense any longer? Listen to me, man. It's a big deal. Taking offense is a choice. So is releasing offense. Do you understand what I just said? Taking offense is a choice. So is releasing offense. And you might have to choose right now to release offense. Someone that hurt you. Someone that did you wrong. And you just got to realize, you know what? Father, forgive them. They know not what they do. And I hear this in my spirit, so I'm going to address it. Because someone just said, I think they knew what they were doing and they didn't care. Exactly. They knew what they were doing. They didn't care. Why? Because they didn't know the long-term detriment. They might have known what they were doing at that moment,